The orange balloons were still taped to the railing when she got back, half deflated, curling at the edges. One of them had popped in the wind and left a piece dangling from the bush like a torn flag. Her heels clicked twice against the porch before she stopped, hand already halfway to the doorknob. The key didn't work. She tried again. A slower turn, a softer twist, then harder. Still nothing. Then she noticed the note. It wasn't taped, just slipped under a small glass bowl on the welcome mat. One line, one pen stroke. The locks remember what you don't. Inside, she stood frozen in the entryway. No coat rack, no couch, no sound. The soft hum of the fridge was gone. The rug she used to complain about, the one I loved because it reminded me of my mom's house, not there. The pictures had vanished too. Even the stupid magnet with the cracked smiley face from that road trip to Vermont. Gone. What was left? A single folding chair in the middle of the living room. And a wedding photo. Shredded. She didn't scream. Not right away. She just walked slowly, like the air had turned heavy down the hall, past the empty hooks, the dust lines where furniture used to live, to the bedroom. There was no bed. Just the box where her expensive shoes used to be. And on top of it, my old phone. Fully charged. Playing the video. Her. In that dress. The dark blue one she said was for client presentations. Sitting too close. Laughing too much. Touching someone's arm who wasn't me. The camera angle was too good. The audio too clear. She never knew I was good with tech. She always said I was just the soft one. Said it like it was a joke. But now she stood there, no punchline. Just a room full of nothing. Her eyes wide, her mouth half open like she was waiting for the oxygen to come back. I watched from the security feed. From the place she didn't know existed. With popcorn in one hand and a contract in the other. The lease was mine. The silence was hers. And for the first time in 7 years, I didn't apologize for anything. She paced through the hollow house like a stranger breaking in. Her heels tapped on the hardwood louder now. No rug to soften the sound. No TV buzz to mask the growing panic. I knew the exact moment the realization hit her, not because I was there, but because I'd imagined this moment 100 times. Every shallow breath. Every double take. Every slap of disbelief across her perfect little smirk. She opened the kitchen cabinets. Empty. The plates, gone. The mugs she bought last winter with little reindeer on them, vanished. The silverware drawer? Just dust and a note that read, "You always said I was too quiet. Thought I'd leave loud for once." I spent a week crafting those details. It wasn't revenge. It was closure. Or maybe theater. Depends who you ask. She moved faster after that. You could feel the urgency by how she started yanking open drawers. She opened the fridge, unplugged and warm. I left one thing inside. A single water bottle with a sticker on it that said, "Hydration is important during emotional events." She hated my sarcasm. Used to call it emotional avoidance. Maybe she was right. Upstairs, she finally lost composure. I could tell because the camera in the hallway shook. She slammed a door. Probably the bedroom. It was the only room I left something heavy in. I wanted her to open it. To see what I'd left behind. The room was stripped bare except for two things. The shattered remains of the frame that once held our wedding photo, and a plain white envelope taped to the wall where her vanity mirror used to be. Inside it, a printed itinerary from her recent team-building weekend, featuring a 5-star hotel and 2 tickets. Only one name was hers. The other? Her boss's. Bold letters. Undeniable. I think she screamed then, though the audio feed was fuzzy. I didn't save that part. I didn't need to. Her reaction wasn't the point. This wasn't about hurting her. Not really. I had already spent too many nights curled on the edge of the bed while she slept like someone who didn't have secrets. Too many mornings stirring her coffee while wondering who else knew how she liked it. Too many weekends watching her text someone else while claiming it was work stress. I had tried talking to her once, months ago. Told her I felt like I was fading out of my own marriage. She looked up from her phone and said, "You're just overthinking again. You always do this, Elwood." So I stopped thinking. And I started preparing. And now she was back to nothing. No bank access. I moved the money. No passwords. I changed them. Even her car wouldn't start, the battery mysteriously missing, placed in the trunk with a sticky note that read, "You can take the bus like I did for 2 years." For the first time, she was in my shoes. For the first time, she had to ask, what did I miss while I wasn't paying attention? And for once, the silence finally answered back. It was almost poetic, in a messed up kind of way. She used to say I was forgettable. Not in a cruel voice, no, That would have made it easier to hate her. She said it in passing, like some offhand observation while scrolling her phone. You're just quiet, Elle. People forget you're even in the room. I used to laugh along with it, thinking maybe she was right. I didn't make big entrances, I didn't talk over people, and I sure as hell didn't demand things. I just showed up. I stayed. I did what husbands are supposed to do. And she drifted further away each year, like I was background noise fading under the volume of her ambition. But now? Now my silence was all she could hear. She called me 4 times that morning, left voicemails that started calm, then shifted into frantic, then full-on panic. Elwood, what the hell is going on? Where are you? The house is everything's gone. I don't understand. Please call me back. The next one was sharper. Accusatory. Is this some kind of sick joke? You're being childish. Grow up and talk to me. I didn't respond. That was the whole point, wasn't it? All those years she spoke around me, above me, through me, and now my silence was the only thing echoing back. No explanations. No arguments. No tears. Just absence. She always said she hated messy drama, so I gave her clean consequences. But that wasn't even the twist. Not yet. At exactly 12:41 p.m., she finally figured it out. She called my brother's number, the one I'd left visible on the notepad in the kitchen drawer, knowing full well she'd search for any threat. I was staying at his place 2 hours away, in a guest room he'd offered me more out of pity than loyalty. He never liked her. Said she had boss energy that bites. He wasn't wrong. According to him, the conversation lasted less than 60 seconds. She demanded to know where I was. He said, he's where people go when they're done being cheated on. Then he hung up. That's when her call stopped. For 5 hours, nothing. Not a single message. I could feel her brain trying to rewrite the narrative, scrambling to figure out how much I knew. Did I see the texts? The photos? Did someone tell me? She never figured out that I knew everything from the very beginning of it all. The hotel suite wasn't a one-time slip. It was a regular event. The man? Not just her boss, but her old flame from before we got married. The one she told me was a closed chapter. Well, apparently that chapter had a sequel, and they were meeting every second Thursday like clockwork. I only confirmed it when I saw her phone backup sync to our shared cloud. She forgot to unlink it months ago. I had to sit there and read messages like, he's sweet but predictable. I need more than just loyalty. That one burned worse than all the pictures. But I didn't confront her. Not then. I waited. I wanted her to have time to hang herself with her own lies. I gave her all the rope she needed, all the while building my quiet exit, like someone planning a fire drill while pretending the building wasn't already burning. At 5:22 p.m., she finally messaged. Elwood, I don't know what you think you saw, but this isn't fair. You can't just disappear. Talk to me. Please. Still, I said nothing. I knew the next part would sting more than anything else. That evening, a courier delivered a sealed envelope to the address we once called home. Inside it, my lawyer's letter. A full breakdown of everything I was filing, the separation, the asset withdrawal, the statement of digital evidence, and most importantly, the notarized notice that the bank account she relied on was no longer accessible. I heard she cried after reading it. I wouldn't know. I didn't see it. But I hope, just for a second, she felt what I had felt for years. Invisible, dismissed, small. That was the moment I finally started breathing again. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because I missed her, not exactly. It was more like my body hadn't caught up with what my mind already knew, that I was out. That I was finally done. I lay on my brother's stiff guest bed, staring at the ceiling like it might write me a new future. But the ceiling offered no answers. Just a slow-moving crack in the plaster, like time itself had tried to escape. Around 3 a.m., I checked my phone. 8 missed calls. 3 voicemails. 5 texts. I didn't open any of them. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened my old journal app. The one I used to write in before I met Kendra. Before my voice became too much or too emotional or too dramatic. That's what she always said when I got vulnerable. You're spiraling again, Elwood. Just breathe. Like breathing fixed betrayal. In the journal, I wrote exactly 4 words. I'm not spiraling anymore. And somehow, that felt like a kind of resurrection. The next morning, everything began to unravel for her publicly. See, what Kendra didn't know, what she never even bothered to ask, was that the man she'd been having her little secret rendezvous with wasn't just her boss. He was married. Very married. 3 kids, 1 Labrador, and a wife who tracked every hotel receipt with surgical precision. The wife had messaged me 2 weeks earlier. An anonymous email at first, then proof. She'd known longer than I had but kept quiet because, in her words, women like Kendra think they're too smart to fall. She had waited for her moment. I guess I inspired her to take it. At 9:13 a.m., her husband's wife went nuclear. She sent screenshots of the affair to every department head at their company. She even attached the security cam image of them walking out of the hotel together, him with his tie loosened, her with lipstick smudged and a grin that now looked disgusting to me. Kendra called me again at 10:02 a.m. This time, her voice cracked halfway through the voicemail. "Elwood, please. I need to talk to you. Everything is a mess. It's not what it looks like. I swear I didn't mean for any of this to happen. But see, that's the thing. She did mean for it to happen. She just didn't mean for me to find out. She didn't mean for the fallout to hit her." In her mind, I was supposed to just sit quietly, keep the lights on, keep the dishes clean, and wait for her to come home smelling like someone else's aftershave while she whispered half-hearted I love yous into the dark. And I almost did. God, I almost stayed asleep through it all. But something woke me up, not rage, not even revenge. It was emptiness. That hollow pit you get when you realize the person next to you only loves the version of you that doesn't exist anymore. At noon, she drove to my brother's house. She didn't know I was watching through the blinds. She sat in the car for 20 minutes, just staring at the front door. She never got out. She didn't even ring the bell. Just cried into her steering wheel before peeling away like the driveway had betrayed her too. And as I watched her go, something strange happened. I didn't feel satisfaction. Not the kind I thought I would. I felt peace. Quiet, solid, unshakable peace. Like a train that finally stops after years of rattling down the wrong tracks. I didn't chase her. I didn't text back. I just stood there, hands in my hoodie pocket, and whispered to no one in particular. "You said it was just a party, but it was the end of everything." And finally, I let myself smile. 2 days passed. She didn't call again. Not once. No more pleading voicemails. No sudden apologies. No last-ditch declarations of love. Just silence, the kind that used to come from me, but now belonged to her. I wondered if it was pride, or shame, or if she was simply waiting for me to blink first. Kendra always believed she had control, even in chaos. She could twist a narrative so cleanly it almost felt like truth. She once told me, during a fight, people don't care what you do, they care what you sell. That sentence stuck with me like a splinter under my skin. But there was no selling her way out of this. The fallout at her job spread like wildfire. I didn't even have to lift a finger. The company was small enough that rumors didn't need confirmation, just oxygen. Her boss was placed on administrative leave pending investigation, and she was quietly asked to take personal time. Her access revoked. Her corporate email frozen. And the work phone I'd left charging on the kitchen counter? Disconnected. I watched it all unfold from a safe distance, but I wasn't gloating. Honestly, I felt tired. I wasn't some master manipulator or revenge genius. I was a guy who had been forgotten in his own life, finally flipping the script. But the strange part? Even after everything, there was still a piece of me that kept looking at the door. Not hoping she'd walk through it, just waiting for the illusion to come back, to whisper in my ear that it had all been a dream. That I'd overreacted. That maybe I still had some fault in this. But then I'd remember that night. The first night I ever really knew. It was 4 months ago. She said she had a women in leadership dinner. Said it would be late. Said her phone would die, so not to worry if she didn't respond. I said okay. I always said okay. But something didn't sit right, so I opened her laptop the moment she left. I wasn't proud of it. It felt dirty, intrusive. But then again, so was cheating. There, right in her downloads folder, was a PDF itinerary. Not for a networking dinner. For a wellness retreat. 2 nights. 1 suite. 1 king bed. Under the guest list was a single name next to hers, Harold Bensley. Her boss. The man who shook my hand at the last company event and told me I was lucky to have a woman like her. I didn't confront her that night. I pretended to sleep as she crawled into bed at 2:11 a.m., the smell of smoke and whiskey clinging to her. I waited until she drifted off before turning away and silently deleting every picture of us from my phone. That was the night I started planning my exit. Not out of rage, but out of survival. I didn't scream or accuse or throw anything. I just started stepping away, inch by inch, until the life I built for her became a box I no longer lived in. Now, in the wreckage of her own making, she had no more illusions left to wear. And neither did I. That morning, I went to the storage unit where I'd packed the last of my things. I pulled out a photo album she'd never seen. It was from my early 20s, back when I still believed in big dreams and good timing. There was a picture of me in front of a cabin in Montana, where I'd once wanted to open a music cafe. I stared at it for a long time, then drove straight to the bank and withdrew what remained of my emergency savings. By the afternoon, I booked a cabin outside of Asheville. Small, old, creaky, but quiet. The kind of quiet I used to hate. As I drove out of the city, my phone buzzed. One final message from her. "You didn't have to do this. We could have fixed it." I read it 5 times before replying. I hadn't texted her since the night she left for that party. I typed only 3 words. "You never tried." And then I turned off the phone completely. Not because I was running away, but because I was finally going somewhere else. I arrived at the cabin just after sunset. The air was crisp, the kind that wraps around your chest and presses pause on your thoughts. It smelled like pine and earth and something faintly burnt, maybe old wood or memory. The place wasn't anything special on paper, but to me, it felt like a sanctuary. No neighbors, no Wi-Fi, no one asking me if I was okay while secretly waiting for me to say I was. I unpacked slowly. A small suitcase, a duffel bag, the old journal, and a hard drive labeled in black marker, just in case. That drive held every screenshot, video, message, and document I'd collected during the last year of our marriage. I wasn't sure why I brought it. Maybe to remind myself I wasn't crazy, that it wasn't all in my head like she used to suggest, that I didn't imagine the betrayal, I just refused to ignore it. The first night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the creaky mattress listening to the wind move through the trees like whispers through old walls. My mind kept replaying everything she'd ever said to minimize me. The soft digs, the guilt tripping, the way she'd twist my need for connection into some kind of emotional flaw. Not everything has to be a deep talk. Elwood, she once snapped when I asked if she still felt happy with me. She said I made her feel suffocated. Like my love was a burden she had to carry between Zoom meetings. I stared at the ceiling and whispered to no one, "You didn't carry me. I carried us." The next morning, I opened my laptop and logged into the cloud backup I'd set up months ago. I wasn't looking to check on her. I was looking for closure. But curiosity is a cruel master. The synced messages still rolled, and because she hadn't updated her settings. She never noticed the devices list, even though I'd renamed mine living room lamp, a joke she never understood. And there it was, a thread with someone new. Not Harold. A friend from her old college days. Flirty texts. Recycled lines. A fresh connection warming up while the ashes of our marriage still floated in the air. I should have felt anger, disgust, betrayal all over again. But I didn't. I felt exhausted. Because it finally hit me, she wasn't just unfaithful. She was hollow. She needed constant attention to feel real. And I had spent years trying to fill her with a love she never intended to return. She had always been searching for the next emotional high. The next flirtation. The next party. The next man. The next excuse. I closed the laptop and walked outside barefoot. The grass was damp, cool, grounding. I sat on a stone by the edge of the woods and just breathed. Not to center myself or whatever meditation gurus say. I breathed because no one was telling me not to. Because I didn't have to keep it in for anyone anymore. That evening, I got a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer. Then came a text. "I know you're not coming back, but you could have said goodbye." It wasn't signed, but I knew it was her. That passive guilt, sweetened just enough to sound like a lament. But I had said goodbye. In every unanswered question. In every late night I stayed up waiting for her. In every word I swallowed so she wouldn't get defensive. I'd said goodbye the night she left for that, just a work party, in a dress I'd never seen before, and came home to a house that no longer belonged to her. So I didn't reply. I let her sit with the silence. And this time, the silence wasn't passive. It was final. 3 days into the cabin, and the quiet wasn't just peaceful anymore. It was transformative. The kind that doesn't simply soothe you, but slowly rewires what you believe about yourself. I no longer checked my phone. I no longer paced. The man who used to panic over an unanswered text, who once rehearsed apologies in the mirror for things he didn't even do, was gone. In his place was someone I hadn't met before, someone not just hurt, but finally free of pretending. On the 4th morning, I heard the crunch of gravel. I was sipping black coffee on the porch, staring at fog rolling off the mountains like a blanket. At first, I thought maybe it was a delivery. I hadn't ordered anything. Then the car door slammed. Soft but deliberate. She came Kendra stood at the edge of the clearing like she wasn't sure she was allowed to take another step forward. She wore a navy coat, one I'd never seen before, and her hair was tied back like she'd just come from some serious meeting or an attempt to pull herself together. I didn't move, didn't stand, just stared at her with the same look she'd given me all those nights she came home late. Detached concern, paper-thin guilt. "I didn't think you'd really go," she said quietly. I sipped my coffee. She stepped closer. "I lost everything, Elwood." "No," I finally replied. "You let it all go. One lie at a time." She looked down. "I never wanted it to end like this. You just disappeared." It felt cruel. I almost laughed. The kind of hollow, breathless chuckle you give when someone hands you a lie so fragile, you're afraid to crush it with the truth. "Cruel," I repeated. "You made me invisible in my own home, Kendra. You stood next to me in rooms and talked like I wasn't there. You came home smelling like someone else's cologne and called me insecure. And now, after I finally walk away, now it feels cruel." She looked like she was searching for words that didn't exist. "I was scared," she murmured. I stood then. Not in anger, just resolve. "No, you were careless. You wanted the safety of me without the loyalty I gave. You wanted me there when it was convenient and gone when it wasn't. You didn't think I'd ever leave. That's the part that's really bothering you." She didn't argue. She knew I was right. I think that's what stunned her the most, that I wasn't breaking, wasn't begging, wasn't folding into myself the way she remembered. She stood in that silence, looking for the version of me she used to manipulate, and finding only dust. Finally, she pulled a folded piece of paper from her coat. "You deserve this," she said, placing it on the porch railing. I didn't pick it up. "It's a letter," she continued. "No excuses. Just things I should have said when it mattered." I looked at her one last time and said, "You had years, and you filled them with lies." She flinched. Whether from the cold or the words, I'll never know. She turned and walked away without asking me to follow. That, at least, was a mercy. The sound of her car tires crunching down the gravel road didn't fill me with loss, only relief. Not dramatic, not cinematic. Just calm. I stood there for a long time after she left. When the wind blew, the letter she left fluttered slightly. I let it sit there, untouched. Some stories don't need epilogues. Some silences are the ending. I didn't read the letter. Maybe that sounds cold. Maybe it makes me petty. But I think it was the first real act of self-respect I'd shown in years. That envelope sat on the railing for 2 full days. Wind, sun, drizzle. Still untouched. On the 3rd morning, I took it, walked into the woods behind the cabin, and buried it beneath a flat stone, along with all the versions of myself I had to shed just to survive her. That same afternoon, I finally did something for me, not for her, not to prove anything, not to react to pain. Just me. I pulled out the old guitar I hadn't played since we got married, the one she called, "A Phase You'll Grow Out of." I tuned it slowly, clumsily, and sat beneath the crooked pine tree in the clearing behind the cabin. I played. Not well. Not smoothly. My fingers stumbled through chords like a man learning how to feel again. But the sound, raw and perfect, real, filled the space inside me that had been hollowed out by years of silence. I started writing again. Not about her. About me. About the kid I used to be before I twisted myself into someone manageable. About the man I wanted to become now that I was no longer someone's shadow. I wrote without needing permission, without apology. A week later, I filed for divorce officially. The process was calm, almost boring. There were no fights, no angry emails. Just a final acceptance that we were done, and had been long before I ever packed a bag. Her lawyer responded quickly. No contest. No drama. Just paperwork. I moved out of the city for good. The cabin wasn't permanent, but it was enough for now. I found a little rental job helping restore old furniture in town, working with my hands again. Something real. Something solid. The kind of work that doesn't lie to you. People started to notice me again. Not as the sad, quiet husband of someone important, just as Elwood. The guy who listens. The guy who asks how you're really doing. The guy who brings his guitar to the weekend bonfire even though he's still terrible at it. One evening, just after sunset, a woman named June asked if I wanted to grab coffee. She wasn't polished or perfect or dramatic. She didn't talk over me. She laughed at my worst jokes, the ones even I didn't think landed. We sat by the lake and talked for 3 hours about nothing and everything. And when I walked her home, she didn't say, "Text me." She said, "I hope you sleep well. You look like someone who needs rest, not noise." And I did sleep well. Better than I had in years. Because sometimes peace doesn't come in fireworks or applause. Sometimes it arrives in the quiet spaces you once feared, a still room, a slow morning, the wind through pine needles, the creak of a guitar string under your fingertips. And as for her, I don't think about her much anymore. Because when she came back from that so-called work party, expecting everything to still be in place, the house, the love, the man who waited, what she found was a silence she didn't understand. But me? I found myself in it. And I'm never going back.